Imagine this. Your 13-year-old son vanishes. Just gone. Years go by, hope is pretty much gone. And then you get a call. He's alive. He's been found on another continent. It's an absolute miracle. But the person who comes home isn't your son. Okay, buckle up, because we are about to dive into one of the most bizarre true stories you will ever hear.
I mean, that's the question, right? How is that even possible? It seems completely illogical, which is exactly what makes this story so captivating and, honestly, so deeply unsettling. We're going to break down exactly how a master manipulator pulled this off, and the much darker mystery he might have stumbled upon along the way.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're in San Antonio, Texas, 1994. A 13-year-old kid named Nicholas Barclay disappears. For 3 long, agonizing years, his family hears absolutely nothing. They assume the worst. Then, out of the blue, in October 1997, the phone rings. It's the news they'd only dreamed of. Nicholas has been found. He's in Linares, Spain.
Except it wasn't Nicholas. The person claiming to be their now 16-year-old son was actually a 23-year-old Frenchman with a long history of impersonation. His name was Frédéric Bourdin, and he was about to attempt his most unbelievable con yet. So you have to be asking, how in the world does a con artist in Spain find and just steal the identity of a missing kid from Texas? Well, this wasn't just some stroke of luck. It was a cold, calculated plan that he hatched from inside a Spanish youth shelter. Let's just walk through his scheme step by step. First, Bourdin, who is 23, convinces the police that he's just a scared, lost teenager, so they'll place him in a shelter. Smart. Once he's inside, he gets access to a phone. He starts calling police departments in the U.S., pretending to be a Spanish official. Eventually, they point him to the National Center for Missing Children. He tells them he's got this unidentified American boy, and they, just trying to be helpful, fax him the file for a possible match, Nicholas Barclay. And just like that, he had his new identity.
But getting the file, that was just step one. The real genius, the truly diabolical part, was how he hooked the family. He calls Nicholas's sister, Carrie, but not as Nicholas. No, he pretends to be a shelter employee. He spins this elaborate, horrific story about kidnapping and torture, which perfectly explains why Nicholas would be traumatized and withdrawn. You see, he's already explaining away any inconsistencies before they even meet him. He's a master at playing on their emotions. After setting the stage with this awful story, he holds the phone up and whispers a barely audible, "I love you," pretending it's Nicholas. For a family just desperate for any shred of hope after 3 years of silence, well, that was all it took. Boom, the hook was set. Okay, but here's where it gets really tricky. Bourdin gets the fax file, complete with a color photo, and he realizes he looks nothing like Nicholas Barclay. The real Nicholas had blonde hair and blue eyes. Bourdin had brown hair and brown eyes. A face-to-face meeting is coming up, and his entire con is about to be put to the ultimate test. So he goes into total damage control mode. He buys some cheap dye to turn his hair a blotchy, awful blonde. He gets a girl at the shelter to draw on tattoos to match the ones in Nicholas's file, and to cover the biggest differences, his whole plan is to just hide behind sunglasses and a scarf. It's a pretty flimsy disguise, all things considered. So Nicholas's sister, Carrie, flies all the way to Spain. Bourdin walks into the room, totally shrouded in his cap, sunglasses, and scarf. And without a single moment of hesitation, she runs to him and just hugs him. In that one moment of embrace, fueled by hope and years of grief, the lie becomes real. She wanted to believe, and so she did. And this right here, this is the moment that sealed the deal. Carrie brought a family photo album with her. For hours, she sits there with Bourdin, pointing out relatives, telling him stories, sharing memories. She is, without even realizing it, giving him a complete crash course on how to be Nicholas Barclay. She literally armed him with every piece of information he needed to fool everyone else. So, incredibly, Bourdin makes it all the way to Texas. He moves in with the Barclay family. For a moment, it seems like he's done it. But he might have fooled them, he can't fool everyone. Once he's on U.S. soil, the story starts getting official attention, and the glaring inconsistencies become impossible to ignore. I mean, let's just lay it out, side by side. The differences are, well, they're staggering. You've got a 16-year-old American kid with blonde hair and blue eyes versus a 23-year-old Frenchman with brown hair and brown eyes. They don't even have the same ear shape. It seems absolutely impossible that anyone could overlook this. So you're probably wondering, what was his excuse for all this? Well, the answer is, with more lies, of course. Absolutely insane lies. For the different eye color, his story was that his kidnappers injected his eyes with chemicals to change them. For his thick French accent, oh, they forbade him from speaking English for years. Every single discrepancy was just papered over with another layer of trauma.
Yeah, the professionals, they were not buying it for a second. You had an FBI agent, Nancy Fisher, who was suspicious from day one. Then there was this local private eye, Charlie Parker, who gets totally obsessed, comparing photos on television and proving the earlobes didn't match. Then, a psychiatrist brought in by the FBI noted his thick foreign accent and observed that he spoke about his trauma with a chilling lack of emotion. The net was definitely closing in.
So Bourdin can feel the walls closing in. He knows the game is almost over. The FBI is pushing for real proof, and his web of lies is tearing apart. But this guy, this master manipulator, he has one last unbelievable card to play. A shocking accusation that will turn this entire case completely on its head.
The FBI is just done playing games. They get a court order and they forcibly take Bourdin's fingerprints and blood samples. Now, Bourdin is an internationally wanted con man. He knows the second those prints hit the Interpol database, his real identity will be revealed. It's all over.
So, knowing the end is near, he does something unexpected. He reaches out to Charlie Parker, the PI who's been hounding him. And he comes clean. He admits it all. I am Frédéric Bourdin, an imposter. But then, right after confessing, he looks at the investigator and asks this chilling question.
He asks the one question that's been hanging in the air this whole time. He knows he looks nothing like their son. He knows he sounds nothing like their son. So why? Why would they just welcome a total stranger into their home? Bourdin's answer is even more shocking than the impersonation itself. And this is where the story takes its darkest turn. Bourdin tells the FBI that the family wasn't just tricked. No, he says they embraced the lie because it was a cover-up for a terrible truth. He claims they knew he wasn't Nicholas because they knew the real Nicholas was already dead, and that they were the ones who killed him.
And just like that, with that single accusation, the whole story just shatters. The case of the imposter? Yeah, that's solved. But a new, much darker mystery opens up, the potential murder of Nicholas Barclay. All of a sudden, Bourdin the con man becomes Bourdin the star witness.
The aftermath is honestly just as bizarre as the crime itself. So in 1998, Bourdin gets sentenced to 6 years. But get this, not for the impersonation, but for passport fraud. Shortly after, Nicholas's troubled older brother Jason, who Bourdin had pointed the finger at, dies of a drug overdose. Bourdin serves his time, gets deported to France, and, well, he just goes right back to impersonating people. And the original case, the whole reason this started, the disappearance of Nicholas Barclay, remains unsolved.
Now, it's crucial to say the Barclay family has always vehemently denied every single one of Bourdin's accusations. Their story has never changed. They were simply the victims of a cruel and brilliant manipulator, a man who preyed on their hope and their grief. And they have a point. Why would you ever trust the word of a man whose entire life is built on telling lies? So in the end, the imposter got caught, he went to jail, but his final poisonous accusation left a question that just hangs over this case to this very day. Was the family simply blinded by hope, willing to accept anyone? Or were they hiding a secret so dark that accepting an imposter was actually the better alternative? We still don't know what really happened to Nicholas Barclay.